will ease your mind.
1970 America felt tired in a way that didn't look dramatic from the outside, but it lived heavy inside people's chests. The war was tearing families apart, cities shook with protests, and the country seemed to breathe in broken rhythms. And somewhere in New York, in a room that felt too quiet for such a chaotic world, a simple piano chord fell into the air like a small prayer. The paradox was almost haunting. In a time when people shouted to be heard, the song that would hold an entire generation together began as a whisper. A melody so gentle it felt fragile. A voice so soft it felt like it could break at any moment. Yet from that softness came strength no one expected. What if the song they feared the most was the one that saved them? Come with me, there's more to this story. Before the world ever heard a single note of Bridge Over Troubled Water, Paul Simon sat alone in a dimly lit room where night felt heavier than usual. The city outside was restless, but the room he worked in felt almost suspended in time. Just him, a piano, and the quiet hiss of distant rainfall tapping against the window. Creation often begins in chaos, but this one began in stillness. He didn't write to impress an audience or chase a trend. He wrote because something inside him needed a place to breathe. Each line carried a piece of the loneliness he rarely spoke about. Each chord felt like a confession. He once said he imagined a gospel voice, warm, comforting, steady, guiding someone through their darkest hour. That voice would become Art Garfunkel's. But the raw ache underneath it belonged to Paul alone. Every artist has a moment where inspiration doesn't strike like lightning. It arrives like a slow unfolding, a truth that refuses to stay hidden. For Paul, this song wasn't born from confidence. It came from uncertainty, fear, and a stripped-down honesty he didn't always allow himself to express. He played the opening chords over and over, trying to understand why they felt like a hand reaching out in the dark. And when the melody finally settled, he knew he wasn't writing a song anymore. He was writing a lifeline, for himself first, and later for millions. Genius didn't sound like glory. It sounded like pain, learning to sing. When Paul brought the song to the studio, it didn't land the way he expected. The industry had a way of flattening anything that didn't fit inside a clean, predictable box. Executives frowned, exchanged looks, scribbled notes that were more about fear than creativity. Too long, someone murmured. Too slow. Too risky. Translation, too honest for radio. It wasn't anger that filled the room. It was a quiet kind of doubt, the kind that sneaks in when people are too afraid to believe in something soft. The world wanted loud, fast, marketable. This song was none of those things. Art Garfunkel, chosen to sing the lead, didn't raise his voice. Paul didn't push back. They simply held on to what they felt in their bones, that some songs were meant to guide people, not entertain them, that some messages needed room to breathe. And in rooms full of executives, Paul later admitted, he never felt more alone. But loneliness has a strange power. It sharpens the edges of truth. It reminds an artist why they began in the first place. So they kept going, recording, refining, refusing to cut the heart out of the song just to make it easier to package. They weren't chasing rebellion. They were choosing honesty in a world terrified of it. Real rebellion isn't noise. It's truth refusing to shrink. The first time Bridge Over Troubled Water played on the radio, something unusual happened. The DJ paused longer than expected after the last note faded. It wasn't dead air, it was awe. Then, without a word, he played the song again. Across the city, phones rang in stations. Listeners weren't just requesting the track, they were pleading for it. Play it again. Who is that voice? Why does it feel like this song knows me? The music didn't explode into the world. It drifted, soft but unstoppable, into kitchens, cars, night shifts, lonely apartments, military bases. People felt seen in ways they didn't know they needed. The trembling arcs of Garfunkel's voice held a kind of quiet courage, like someone placing a hand on your shoulder and telling you to keep going. You could feel the city changing. Taxi drivers hummed it under their breath. Soldiers wrote home mentioning it. Mothers held their children a little closer when it played. Grief-stricken families said it felt like someone finally understood their pain. For a moment, America slowed down enough to listen, and this soft, delicate melody, born in loneliness, doubted by the industry, became an anthem of healing that no one saw coming. Truth always finds its way, even when the world refuses to listen. Time moved forward, carrying entire decades with it, yet Bridge Over Troubled Water never drifted into silence. Instead, it lived inside people's private moments, those memories that come back not with volume, but with warmth. As the years unfolded, America changed, families grew older, and new generations rose with different fears, different hopes, different storms. But whenever life became too heavy, the song found its way back like an old friend returning at exactly the right moment. It resurfaced in films where characters faced their breaking points. It played in hospitals during long nights when families waited for news. Choirs transformed it into hymns of comfort. Soldiers carried it with them overseas as a reminder of home. Even strangers who had never lived through the 70s felt its presence as soon as the first piano chord fell, steady, gentle, reassuring. Then came the digital age, a world louder, quicker, more chaotic than anything Paul or Art could have imagined. Yet somehow the song adapted. It moved through YouTube tributes, viral covers, tearful reactions, and late-night searches by people looking for something they couldn't name. Teenagers discovered it, grandparents returned to it, and all of them felt the same silence inside the melody, a quiet place to rest. The world is louder now, faster now, but this song still slows people down. Its legacy isn't defined by nostalgia alone. It is defined by the way it continues to lift those who feel unseen, to steady those who feel unanchored. It remains a bridge, not across water, but across generations. Beauty never asks for time. It simply keeps breathing. Some songs don't simply pass through your life. They stay, quietly, like a hand resting on your shoulder long after the moment has ended. Bridge Over Troubled Water is one of those rare pieces that feels less like a performance and more like a conversation with the part of you that once struggled, once grieved, once held on when you weren't sure you could. Do you remember the first time this song found you? Were you young, trying to understand the world? Were you older, carrying a weight no one else knew about? Or did it come to you in a moment of stillness, when the room was dim, the night was quiet, and you finally allowed yourself to feel everything you had been holding back? For millions, the song became more than melody. It became a memory they returned to, a reminder that someone, somewhere, once understood exactly what they were going through, and in that understanding there was comfort, a gentle promise that the storm would ease, that they would rise again, that no one truly walks alone. Music matters because it gives shape to the emotions we cannot name. It becomes the voice we borrow when our own breaks. It becomes the bridge that carries us when we are too tired to move. If stories like this remind you why music still matters, why certain songs stay with you long after the world forgets, then stay close. There are more stories waiting, more memories worth revisiting, more moments where a single note can change everything, because legends never fade, they just wait to be remembered.